And
you know who he is? He is King Joffrey.
Oh, that's a good one.
He is King Joffrey from Game of Thrones, and we all want to whip that kid's ass.
Oh my gosh.
I take mine back. No more Kim Jong-un. I want to kick the kid who plays Joffrey in Game of Thrones ass, and I want him to be forced under penalty of death to pretend like he is that character. Use the accent and keep like calling for the guards and stuff like that when I'm like laying an epic ass whipping on him. I want that. I'm a Lannister! Pow, pow, pow! I'm gonna just whip his ass.
Begging to pay you to stop the ass kicking and stuff like that.
My grandfather will destroy you!
You know, like, all these old... I'm thinking of both Spartacus and Game of Thrones. They act like having a sword is like carrying a gun. There's all this, like, oh my god, he's got a sword, look out, disarm, etc. Like, is a sword really that dangerous?
Back then, it was the deadliest weapon available.
But it seems like two people could subdue somebody with a sword.
Oh, that's not true?
Get out! If he's after you...
If I touch you with a sword, you are mortally wounded.
Yeah, especially with medicine in those days.
That's not...
All right, a broadsword. It's like 3.5 feet long. It's 2.5, 3 inches wide. It's sharp as a razor.
I know what handling one of those is like.
3.5 feet long? Poor you. Poor her.
I was imagining him riding a horse with a hood on, swinging it above his head.
Oh, God. That wasn't me this time.
That's it.
Go on.
I'm just saying, I feel like especially I know like in Japanese society especially, that was a huge deal. There was sword control, like the emperor would come through and take all the swords away and stuff every now and then.
They just don't seem that deadly to me. That
but the swords in those shows and the movies are not as prevalent as they actually were.
Not at all.
The background checks were insane back then.
The other thing you have to keep in mind is a sword was a super expensive thing back then. A sword might be as expensive as a car, more expensive than a car is now.
It's very difficult to gather iron, I assume.
Yeah, and to forge it correctly into a weapon and all that stuff.
I know this. I know that, so stick fighting is not sword fighting. I'll lay that out there. But for people who do stick fighting, they have these. Picture it as like kind of a broom handle or heavyweight piece of bamboo.
Kendo.
I'm not familiar with kendo, but
that's what that is.
Like, so you're familiar with like fight clubs, right?
Yes.
There are legit like organizations or not really that legit, but people who do stick fighting, and it always turns into grappling. Every fight, like to win at stick fighting, pretty much one guy is going to close the distance, and it turns into a grappling match because your stick is just freaking worthless when you get too close.
And it's a stick, not a sword.
Right, but I just have this idea that like in real sword fighting, if it was a 1v1, something similar could happen.
I disagree.
It turns into a ground fight.
I was told by somebody once. Go ahead, Kyle.
I think two things are true. From what I understand, and I've obviously never been in a real sword fight, so from what I understand, sword fights last like 3 seconds, and they're over. It's over with when it's a real sword fight. There's none of this cling, cling, cling. It's cling, cling, slash, and the dude's dead. And that's the end of the sword fight. That's how it actually went down.
I bet you're right. As a parent,
it got more like how the Discovery Channel depicted it.
As a parent of two fencers, and have to attend, many tournaments. That's right. I think they rarely last 10 seconds before somebody gets a touch, which is the tip of the sword into someone's chest.
Well, the Discovery Channel talked about it because you got to understand they wore armor and like slashing protection and stuff like this, like full heavy armor. The sword was more to get closer to them because the sword couldn't actually penetrate the breastplates and stuff like of that nature. And they would use daggers to get in between the breast and ring mails and actually stab them and actually kill them.
That's not how we did it in my Roman days.
But that's just from the Discovery Channel where they actually discussed medieval fighting.
Some of that stuff's bullshit, though. Like, I don't know. I saw them compare Navy SEALs to, like, Russian Spetsnaz or something like that. And the Russians...
The Spetsnaz guys are crazy!
They are... Look, I'm not knocking them in general, but, like, one of the things in particular is they compared which knife was more deadly. First of all, I don't think the knife is, like, a primary weapon of any special forces. This is something went wrong or rope-cutting tool. And Kyle, you might know more about this than me. And the other thing is they had this, like, spring-driven... ballistic thing. And they were acting like that was the most deadly thing. That was enough, actually, to give the Spetsnaz the edge over Navy SEALs. The fact that their spring-driven knife was so deadly.
What if the spring-driven knife gets blocked or is missed entirely?
So the thing about those spring-driven knives, because I've got one here, they don't fucking work. You know, if we are grappling, it allows me to stab you without having to make the motion of stabbing. But if you're across a room, then I'm just launching my weapon at you. That's pretty much it.
Giving
how
away
fast
the blade.
can I give my knife away?
How fast? How much velocity does that thing have, Kyle? Like, would it stick into the wall across the?
Yeah, from 6 to 8 feet away, it'll stick right into a wall about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. It'll stick right into a tree or a board or the side of a house.
Well,
and I imagine if you hit a person, it'd make
Let me ask you this: you had like a coat or like a nice coat, and you just hit it. Would it stop? Would it knock it down?
And say the person thing again. Like, what does it take to hurt a person with one of those knives? Like,
you know, I mean, you would have to be like 6, 8 inches away. At that point, I don't think it works because you can just stab it. It doesn't give you any range more than your arm can give you. You know, you can stab someone 2 or 3 feet away because your arm's that long. But a ballistic knife, and this is a spring-loaded one, not the ones that use compressed air or black powder, and those do exist, and I don't have any experience with those. But the spring-loaded ones are just crap. You're just throwing your weapon away.
now they work better in COD.
They do. The same thing true with with throwing knives. I met this guy once who was this badass. You met him too, the guy at T1G.
Okay.
Remember Carl?
Which one was he? Was he like the owner guy? Yeah, I remember
the guy
him.
in charge. I sat down and had a few drinks with Carl, and he said that he told me 2 things. One, they had watched that movie like Navy SEALs or something, and there's a scene where they come parachuting into a roof and they're shooting people while they're floating down on the parachutes. And his commander was like, "Why don't you guys do that? You should do that." And they're like, "Sir, you know that's impossible." "Bullshit, I can do it." And he tries to demonstrate it, and on his second attempt, he broke his ankle. So they completely disproved that. And then I asked him, I was like, "What about knife throwing? What's the deal with that?" He's like, "You mean giving somebody your weapon? That doesn't make any sense." He's like, I can kill him in a split second with my blade, and then I can hang on to it. If I throw it, what if it glances off? What if they're wearing some kind of armor? What if they got a thick fucking coat on? I can't throw it that fast. If I could throw it that fast, I'd be playing Major League Baseball. I'd be pitching.
Also, and I don't look. I'm terrible at throwing knives, and I'm terrible at throwing axes. So I'll lay that out there. But what little bit I do know about knife throwing and axe throwing is you kind of get like with an axe anyway. I have to stand at just the right spot and do just the right amount of revolutions to get the bladed part to hit the guy. Otherwise, I hit him with a handle or the back of the axe or something like that.
I was just asking, like, the standard knife defense is to take like a shirt or coat off and actually wrap the knife that way.
So I was still going. On the throwing knife, I imagine it'd be the same thing. Like, you have to be in just the right distance to know the rotation to actually poke
I thought we
guy.
concluded that throwing knives don't work.
Listen, they do work. As a kid, I was fascinated with ninjas. I had full the Chinese stars thing, but when those got tiring, I grabbed my mom's knives, the butcher knives. I used my door as a target. I don't know why she let me get away with this, but she did. I invited friends over. We wrestled. I would use knives on them, but my aim was so direct. I would get it right before their leg.
How did you convince new people to be your friends after you killed the old ones?
They were old friends that were always in my life. I never got new friends. But eventually you learn that you just got to put the knife inside of a slingshot if you really want it fast.
Now we're talking about a crossbow.
Well, yeah, but I'm just talking about a switchblade knife inside of actual slingshot.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd survive as your friend.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
No, yeah. That's
I think
the
we
end
know
of me.
why he didn't.
Woody, you
what
had the
reason
same